So I've done this once before, but I wanted to give a more in-depth review of the art and sound. It's something I use every day, and I feel like I can give you guys a little bit better of a review of this particular device. Now, this is something I picked up for 70 bucks at a Big Lots, and obviously the most important part of this probably, or at least arguably, is going to be the record player. Now, when it comes to playing vinyl, there has been some videos recently by, for example, like Techmoan talking about this is not a mechanism that you want. And he's not wrong. It's a very cheap low-end mechanism. This is not going to give you the greatest of sound. In fact, it's going to give you the lowest of sounds. However, just my general feeling on this after using this every day is it works. And for somebody who is not terribly interested in getting the highest quality of sound, somebody who just likes playing records as a hobby, picking them up from Goodwills. Oh man, right there it needs to be dusted a little bit. Somebody who's just kind of listening to kind of cheap older records for fun, it works and it's fine. This particular mechanism is very consistent. It's not very good when it comes to pressure, and it will eventually scratch away your records. However, if you're somebody who is like me, that's picking up cheap Goodwill records and just likes kind of listening to your parents' old records, which are beat the hell anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's consistent. It works. The mechanism on here has always been very consistent. The only issue I ever have is sometimes when I go to drop the tone arm here, the arm here, sometimes it gets stuck and it doesn't come down right away. However, I find it's usually because I was too quick to take this mechanism here and flip it. So you could argue that it may be either partially or completely user error. So generally speaking, it's consistent. It does its job. It doesn't skip more or less than you're going to find on your average tone arm. I'm finding even when I go to record shops that have much better record players and things, it's pretty consistent with what you would expect. So I can't fault the record mechanism here too much. I do wish that down here that they would have used color or something to make it easier to see the switch for the different speeds, the 33, 45, 78. Now, I've memorized this, so it's no longer a big deal, but I do wish that they would have made it either a little larger, maybe done a color guide, something to make it easier to see, because quite frankly, even with a flashlight here, it's not terribly easy to see. Generally speaking, though, again, fairly happy. This is a deal breaker for future purposes, though. So it's not a good thing that you have to slide any record that's 12 inches here very carefully. Now, it's never really been a problem for me because I'm always very delicate, but a lot of people are not, or you may have young kids. And so really the worst part about this isn't the cheap mechanism, it's this. That slot is really the worst part about this, and if I would have realized that when I bought this, I would have avoided it. One thing I will say about this particular record player is that for me, it's pretty nostalgic sounding because it very much sounds like the kinds of record players my parents had growing up. So if you had a audiophile parent that had perfect sounding records, perfect sounding equipment, this is not going to be something that is going to appeal to you probably. But for somebody who is nostalgic for that sound of the kind of 80s and those cheap record players that most parents probably had, this is what you're going to get. So I'm happy with it. The worst part of this particular unit are the speakers. These speakers here basically are kind of your cheap speakers that you get with your usual boombox. And honestly, it's actually the worst part of this unit and the part that I have the most frustration with. There's no bass, and the sound on here is not terribly loud. I would love it to have more bass. I would love it to be louder. We found that the best way to do this is to just have this sent out to another set of speakers, but that does take away some of the cost benefit of having something like this. If you have to buy good speakers for this to project to, it definitely increases the overall expenditure. The radio here works fine. I use it for both AM and FM, and I've never really had problems with it. It has a pretty simple tuning mechanism here, and it works. It's pretty finite. I can just turn it just ever so slightly, and it is sensitive enough to pick it up. So I've had no problem with the radio. The CD player down here is about as bare bones as you're ever going to get, but again, it works. I've had no problems with it, no skips. It doesn't give you any special detail. It just tells you what track you're on, but that's it. And I can't really fault it too much because, again, it does what it says it's going to do. And it wasn't really designed to show off the CD player. It's just kind of there. There is a tape mechanism in here on the side. Oops, sorry about that. I got to be honest, I've only used this tape mechanism, I think, once. And it was fine. It sounded... The thing is, it sounds exactly like what it is, a very, very cheap tape player. There's absolutely no Dolby anything on it, and you're going to get a pretty crappy sound, but you would expect that on a unit like this. The one thing that I underestimated when I bought this was how often I was going to use the Bluetooth. I probably use that 30 to 40% of the time. The Bluetooth is a great feature. However, as I told you, the fact that you have to kind of go out to speakers to get a great sound is kind of taking away from the whole Bluetooth thing, because most speakers today have Bluetooth functionality where you can send out to its Bluetooth, so you could just bypass this completely and go directly to the speakers. So I really like the Bluetooth on here as a functionality. However, without the good speakers, that takes away a lot of that benefit. So this is not a unit that I ultimately recommend because of the not great sound and because of the fact that it has that slotted spot back there. However, I can't say that I've gotten bad use out of this. I use it every day. It's something that I enjoy having around to play records. It's pretty reliable, and it does look nice. It's a nice little showpiece in here, and most people find it to be kind of a nostalgic feeling turntable, which does its job. So if you want to buy it, I can't fault you. I'm just not going to wholeheartedly recommend it. Hopefully this helps you with your vinyl purchasing decisions, and you have a great day. Bye-bye.